Good morning, everybody. My name is Holly Shippers. I am the manager for the seasonal as well as houseplant department here at Sunnyside Nursery. And to my right is
Chris Barr, and I work in perennials, shrubs, and trees.
And I'm Sarah Christofferson. I also work in the seasonal color department, and I plant the containers.
Thank you for sharing a bit of your time with us this morning at Sunnyside. As you can see, we are a group. We have chosen to social distance, which is something that maybe if you're thinking about doing this with a group of friends or family, we've got some great sunny days ahead of us as well as sunny weeks. It might be a possibility for you as well. Today's topic is planting living succulent wreath. We recommend that you watch this first. If you edit this, you'll be able to view it several times until you're ready to build your own wreath. We'll get started with unpacking the kit. And this is a bit of a messy job, so you maybe want to think about if you're going to do it in your kitchen, cover your table with plastic. Outdoors would be the best because you can be really messy out there. So when you get a kit here, you start by pulling off the ring. Comes in two pieces. The next thing you'll want to do is pull out the moss and put it in a bucket or tray, a big mixing bowl, and soak it an hour before you get started with water. It's important that the moss be soaked with the water. It helps you mold it into the frame, and we have some pre-soaked already to show.
The magic of television.
Next, you'll be pulling out your dibble. A dibble's sole purpose is to make a hole. But the pins are not necessary. They are useful for a stubborn succulent that does not want to stay in its hole. Again, they are not necessary. Then we've got our plants. A nice selection of sempervivums. And we've got some bits and pieces as well. For succulents, you don't need to have roots. They will produce roots in the wreath. So we'll get started with, yes, we do.
Our cactus and succulent soil.
Yes. For the succulents, you will want to use a cactus succulent soil. Later on, we'll talk about other wreaths that you'll be making with regular potting soil. But for now, let's get started on the succulent wreath. So you want to take your pre-soaked moss, framing it into the wreath ring. And Sarah will show you how in just a moment here.
The little plant babies aside.
Pretty. You just want to kind of mold it in. You want to make sure it's not too thin. If it's too thin, you'll end up losing some soil through it, and it won't be as strong and sturdy as it needs to be.
I like to pack it a little so I have a nice dense mat with a reservoir in the middle for the soil. If you can find bigger pieces to start with, it helps.
Makes the
Kind of get your
process go a little
structure.
quicker.
Yes, yes, and it holds together a little better. Then you can patch with some of the smaller pieces.
Now, if you want to do this at home with your own succulents, you can either just take clippings, like we have done with some of these, and poke them in, or you can start them in a tray of cactus mix that we do as well. And all you have to do is take your clippings and just break them up and drop them in the soil. They just need to be on top. And in 2 or 3 weeks, they'll be sprouted and ready to go. If you want to make sedum tiles, put some cocoa liner or some bird netting down first and then the soil, and that helps create a nice solid tile.
I'm going a little fast since we're just teaching the process, so I might have a few holes here and there.
So when you get the moss around the sides and the front, you'll want to start filling it up with the soil. Again, we're doing succulents, so we're using cactus succulent soil. Cactus succulent soil is different than potting soil. It has extra sand and pumice in it for better drainage. Most succulents like to be dry in between watering. There are a few exceptions, but we can get into that later.
Here comes the messy part.
Just pour it on in. Lightly pack it. You don't need to pack it like it's brown sugar. Just lightly pack it in.
And if you're careful, you might not pour it on your lap.
And then after it's in, then you put a layer of the moistened moss on top. Remember to squeeze it out, otherwise you're going to have a muddy mess.
Okay.
And then it's
So
time
here's
to
the soil.
put your backing on.
I'm almost there.
Nice job, Sarah.
You look like you've done this before.
Couple times.
All right, now you put your backing on, and you want to hook one end and then pull it towards you, and it should give a bit, and that'll hook, and then you do it again with the other two. And then you want to flip it over, and this is where you use your dibble. I would start with your larger succulents first and disperse them evenly across the wreath, and then poke in the smaller ones. Now you're not going to have a very full wreath to begin with. These succulents will eventually grow and cover the entire frame.
Even though these guys are pretty small, I'm going to take off a little, whatever loose soil I can and get, trying not to be too rough with the roots, but they're good at growing their own new roots.
Yeah. So she's made the hole, and now she's going to try to secure the roots in that hole.
Feels pretty good.
Okay. Then she's going to determine where the next one's going to be.
I like to work in threes a lot. Makes it look very round. So I'm choosing 3 of my biggest ones to space apart in a triangle.
And in a little bit, we'll show you one that Chris made. She did a beautiful job with it, and it was made just with the pieces, nothing with roots. And it is, oh, what did we decide, 3 weeks old?
Mm-hmm.
And it's fully rooted and beautiful.
And as your sedums grow and they get too lengthy for your choice, just take some scissors and cut them in half, and they will sprout and be much fuller.
Here's my hole.
Okay, she's got 3 of the larger ones planted now. If you think it's time for some little ones.
Yes, let's go ahead. I'm going to skip the rest of the potted ones. First, you might want to do them first. It's up to you.
Sarah, can you show us what that looks like?
So I've got 1, 2, and a third one for my triangle. There's a center rib, so I just put in a little toward the outside of the rib. And when I add more, I'm going to add some to the outside and some to the inside, so it gets nice and full.
So now with the pieces, some of these kits came with patches of many different types of succulents. Each one of those little pieces can go in a hole and it will sprout roots.
Even this, that looks like a spindly little guy with not much going on. I'm going to stick the stem in the soil and it will grow roots.
So get that dibble going.
This is a little bit bigger guy. He's been rooted in a little bit.
And that one will get quite leggy, very prunable. You might want to think about putting that on the bottom of your wreath so it can hang.
And I might use one of the pins for this one. I'm just gonna stick it in sideways so it can hang on to
they're going to be a little stubborn. Go ahead and pin them.
I'm putting a prong on each side of it and putting it through the moss, so it just adds a little stability. And that shouldn't come out. Now for a little guy, and you don't have to put these in by themselves. You can cluster them or you can spread them through your whole wreath if you would like, whatever look you're going for. They'll all grow. I'm putting this one a little toward the inside. I'll show you that. Another step you can take if you don't like this wild look, once you have all your moss, turn it over, you can trim the moss so you don't have all the stuff sticking out. Personal preference. This might be hard to see because he's hiding in the moss. But my little guy is right here. More toward the inside, so I'm going to have plants on all sides of the wreath. Do a couple more?
He does do a couple more. Yeah.
Let them see how you are picking them out of the group.
Okay. Yeah, just start tearing one apart.
Yeah, so we have some that have been rooted in masses. So I'm not going to stick this whole thing in because some of this is a little leggy. So if I had my little pruners here, I might prune them.
Here.
Oh. It's always good to have clean pruners. Snip, leaving a bit of a tail. So I have something to tuck in and something to grow roots. Use my dibble to work my way through the moss.
And tuck him right in.
Tuck him in. He's sitting pretty nicely, so I don't think I'm going to worry about pinning him.
Now you can put them on top, put them on the side, just kind of cover the whole outer area of the wreath. And don't worry if you make a hole too big. You can easily just kind of push everything together and it'll seal up.
And if you find little gaps, you can always kind of take a little piece and stick it under some of the metal parts and patch your holes.
I'll show the finished product. So this is the one that Chris made 3 weeks ago. It's kind of hard to see.
Still
Yeah.
sparse. It needs a lot of growing in to do yet.
And it will, in time, be nothing but succulents. And beautiful.
Just giving them a gentle tug, I can feel that they've been growing roots and getting themselves in there pretty solidly, just in 3 weeks. So this is probably to the point that if you would like to hang it,
It can be hung now.
they're not falling out.
When you are finished with your succulent wreath, let it sit down flat for those 3 weeks before hanging. That way it'll be all secure and you'll be able to hang it, nothing will fall out. We do have the kits here at the nursery for the succulent wreaths. If you don't want to do a succulent wreath, we do have a kit that is all the materials minus the plants. It's the soil, the dibble, the pins, the moss, and the ring. And then we're here to help you select whatever other plants you would choose for your wreath. We have the bags of cactus mix in various sizes, as well as the bags of potting soil for your non-succulent choices. We do have a water-soluble fertilizer as well.
It's hard to tell if that's showing
I
up.
know, I think the sun's
This is this
getting
Espoma Grow, a good organic water soluble.
some of our other wreaths that we've made. We've got a shade one.
This was Holly's creation.
This is with a juga, Ophiopogon, and a chorus. All very nice for the shade. We've got another one that is ground covers that Sarah made with, what is it, thyme and a little leptonella, some succulents in there as well.
A couple succulents. Ground covers they grow so many roots and form a mat that it's really easy to divide them and get small pieces to use for this kind of thing.
When you do choose a plant, you want to make sure it's something that you can divide into smaller pieces, such as the ajugas. If you want to take one out, show them how to divide. You just want to gently pull them apart.
You want to get down in there and see where there's natural divisions in the clumps.
And you'll want enough of a root system. If they're pretty root bound, you can also use your pruners or a hori-hori or a knife.
I think you're going to cut off the blossom at this point too.
Yeah.
Let them have some energy for fixing their roots. Huh.
And then that would
That's
be
not
your
too
little division that you would put into a hole of your wreath.
It looks like if I was real gentle, I could probably get
maybe
5
4,
pieces out
5,
of
yeah.
this. Yeah. You can see when you get down in here, I've got a stem going between these, but they are both rooted in. So I could cut that stem and I'd have 2 pieces with roots. Just make sure you've got your pieces are rooted in with these kind of plants before you cut them apart.
Now some other options for plants. I'll let you just grab them and then I'll. Grasses are great in living wreaths. The black on her left hand, that's mondo grass, that's Ophiopogon. Has a little whitish lavender flower.
I could definitely get 3 or 4 chunks out of this one.
It looks like you can get 3 out of that one, yes. In her right hand is a chorus. This is a very low growing grass that works well. You want to make sure that your selections are not too tall. You don't want a big shaggy dog. You want something nice and compact. And that can probably get about 4 or 5 divisions.
Yeah, and you will see this in a much taller variety, but the short one works great for the wreaths. And again, the example of that was in this room.
There's also, what else do we have down there? We've got Liriope is another grass. Has a little lavender flower as well. That one's called Lomo. Stays very low to the ground. It's also a lawn substitute. Ferns are another great selection. I love a fern living wreath. On the left is Blecna marinus. It is a very cute little low-growing fern. And you can probably get about 3 divisions out of that one.
Those are evergreen ferns.
Evergreen,
too, right?
yes,
Mm-hmm.
evergreen. On the right, or in her hand now, is Adiantum venustum, one of my favorite ground cover ferns. It's a beautiful, beautiful fern.
Lovely in a breeze.
Soft.
Mm-hmm.
Now this is a great idea for during the holidays. Planting one up now. This is Gaultheria procumbens. It's starting to bud and bloom now. This is a native ground cover for here. By the holidays, it'll have big red bright berries that would be great for during Christmas time. Very popular at that time. Now would be the time to grow it on though. Herbs are another way of going. You can do an herb living wreath. We have golden oregano, as well as, is that time?
Yeah, gold
got a little
transparent in
thyme.
this case. It's starting to root in little separate places. You could probably get a couple out of this one right now, or if it grew a little bit longer, you could probably get 4 or 5.
And you would just treat an herb living wreath like you would an herb bowl. You just snip your pieces as you're ready to use them for cooking. That is salad burnet.
So
Another
pretty.
nice herb to use.
We did this one in an herb wreath last year, put this on the bottom, and it got real nice and drapey. It was so
Great,
pretty.
yeah. Ground covers make a great selection for living wreaths. Those are 2 Seginas there, 2 different colors. They get little tiny white flowers all over them. Very showy once they're in full bloom. Very showy with their bright foliage colors as well. You could probably get about 4 divisions out of those. Those you don't want to make too skimpy. They need to have a certain amount of roots with them. That's Leptonella, also known as brass buttons. Another very nice choice for a living wreath.
That one is in the ground cover wreath, as is this one.
That's woolly thyme, another very nice selection. Kind of a fuzzy leaf to it.
Pretty purple flowers that bloom.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yes. This one adds so much interest with the fuzzy leaves and the flowers. And it'll get drapey too.
And of course, the easiest of all, the succulents. There's a very large selection of succulents to choose from. I would always look at their colors, their textures. With the sempervivums, if you want to show them how they can be divided, you just pull those little chicks off.
Take this guy out of the pot. It's a little easier to see.
Hence the name,
Hens and chicks.
Hens
Yeah.
and chicks. There's our mama hen.
Pull the little chicks off.
There's a lot going on in this
There's a lot
one.
of chicks in there.
You
And
can,
you just gently pull them up. And there's your start. That goes right into a hole.
I'm trying to get some stem with it. We want that to grow roots. Sometimes you find with these kinds, the pieces just drop off on their own and they're free.
Yes, they do. Some of them are very fragile and they just fall right off and we plump them into the soil.
This one had roots growing without even being in the soil. It's already started.
Angelina, you can just take anything off of that.
Yeah, yeah.
Angelina has a great color show too.
Now the plants that don't work well, and we'll show you why in just a moment. The sedum autumn joy would get way too tall and it would look silly. The teucrium, right there, yeah. It's a beautiful plant, but that would, you can see there's just a single section there. There's nothing to divide. Same with the lavender. It's a single section, nothing to divide. As well as the Hebe quicksilver. Again, single, nothing to divide. Those would not do well in a living wreath. Again, you want to make sure that when you're done with your living wreath, it stays flat for 3 weeks to produce roots, and then you're ready to water and fertilize. Do not water during this time. The soil needs to stay dry. Unless you have some in the wreath that have roots, then you just spot water those. You do not want to water the entire wreath if there are sections that do not have roots, that they don't have roots to draw the water up.
So these ones that we had in the pots, we know those have roots. So we could take something with a small spout. Could even be a turkey baster, as Chris suggested, or maybe a little syringe, and just spot water, just those spots for the first few weeks. This one was left unwatered. Was it left unwatered all 3 weeks?
Yes. We did not touch it at all. We did not even drip on it.
And they are happy and solid. And now we could start watering this guy.
Nicole is at the controls. Nicole, do we have any questions?
Yeah, can you elaborate a little bit more on the watering, like how after they root in for the first 3 weeks or so, how do you know when it's time to water them and how do you go about doing that?
What I do is I will just lift it. If it's feather light, it's time to water. That would be for the succulent one. If you're doing, say, a fern wreath, they require much more water. So again, lift it. If it's very heavy and feels damp, you don't need to water. If it feels like it's lightened up a bit, again, for a fern wreath, water then. Ferns require more water than a succulent. So it depends on the type of wreath you're doing on how often you'll need to water.
You cut out at the beginning of that. So basically it depends on what type of plants are in your wreath. So some people ask specifically about herbs versus succulents and what are the different watering care
Like to dry
need.
between watering, so that you can wait until it's fairly light before you water.
Excellent. How do you maintain these through the winter, and what do you need to do going into the following year?
Again, depending on what it is, a succulent wreath should be very happy and hardy out. You don't have to protect it from the cold. Again, depending on what it is and where it's hanging, most things would not have to be protected.
Of course, we are using the hardy outdoor succulents for this wreath.
We do not recommend doing an indoor wreath. That would be a muddy mess to have on your wall.
Would you want to get it out of the rain? Maybe hang it up under your eaves or on a porch so that it doesn't get pelted all winter long?
For
the sedums.
For the sedums, yes. Yes.
That way you can control the water a little bit, but
yes.
But do check it from time to time in the winter.
And keep in mind, if it is under an eave and you're relying on rain, it's not going to get the rain. So you want to be able to check that more often.
What kind of light requirements do you need, and what kind of hanger to actually hold it?
For a succulent wreath, you don't want it on a hot blazing wall, but you do need bright light for most of the succulents. For a hanger, you can use, you go to the hardware store and get a wall mount hook, and it'll hook right on.
Make sure it's a sturdy one, because when they're watered, they do have some weight.
And then we have a question about when you're planting them, what kind of spacing do you need to have? Can you get tighter so that they're fuller, your wreath is fuller sooner? How do you go about that?
You can absolutely put more in to make it look fuller, but it's not necessary. Eventually they will all grow together.
Mm-hmm. If you want more than what comes in the kit, you can certainly come and get some 4-inch pots and dismantle them and put them in. And that is something that Chris out in Perennials can help you find.
Excellent. Does anybody else have any other questions that you'd like us to address while we're here today? Roughly how many plants are available in the kit?
We put in, with the ones that have pots, there are 7 pots, and then we have a pot full of pieces, and then we have kits that are all pieces that are many, many, many pieces. So there's not really a count because you've got to pull those pieces apart.
I would think 20-ish maybe. Once you get, if you take your pieces apart a lot. Yeah.
Because every little piece is something you can poke into the hole.
You can clump them together, or you can spread them out and wait for them to grow and fill in the hole.
So if you don't have a kit already, we have them still available. We don't have a endless supply, but we do have a good portion. So make sure that you come grab those before they're all gone. And like we said, we either have them available with the outdoor succulents or we have them without, so that you can choose other plants if you wanted to do a shade or, herbs and some of the other choices that the ladies discussed today. And we're always on hand to help you choose the best plants that can go in them and how to divide them. We have the handout that will also help as you go through your own planting of this to kind of have all these instructions written down. We'll also have the video posted. It usually takes us, a little bit. So either by the end of today or first thing tomorrow, we'll have the video up online on our class's website page. So that way you can go back through it and watch it and see things as you're doing it yourself. And as always, we're always here to help with any questions if they pop up. Don't hesitate to give us a call or send us an email, and we'd be happy to help you out as best we can. If we didn't get to your question today, like I said, shoot us an email, sunnyside@msn.com. We're happy to help and start a conversation with you. Do we sell just the wreath frames, ladies, outside of the kits?
Yes.
We do.
Yes, we do.
There we go, Krista. Now we both know. So we appreciate you joining us today. Thank you so much. We have upcoming classes. 2 weeks from now, we'll be doing Fabulous Fall Grasses with Trevor. So be sure to join us for that. And we hope to see you around the nursery. Thanks so much, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.